Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to this week's discussion video, and of course with eVegas right behind us, I think I have to cover what I saw there, especially for the EVE Online keynote. I want to talk a little bit about the future plans for CCP when it comes to EVE Online. So this is going to be the main aim of the video. I want to cover some of the stuff that I saw there and give you guys my opinion on that. I'm also very much interested in your opinions on EVE Vegas and especially of course the EVE Online keynote. So if you have anything to share, definitely put that in the comments, because I personally am decently excited, but I thought we would have a little bit more exciting new stuff that they would announce there, which we really didn't this time around. So maybe I should also get started with the other stuff that we saw there that's not EVE Online. So sorry CCP Hilmar, sorry CCP in general, but mobile games, yeah, I don't think that works too well in the Western EVE Online market. We are PC gamers, we are the master race, and so we actually are not too excited about two mobile games, even though they are related to our favorite game out there. So that really, I think, was not received all too well, while on the other hand, I can sort of understand it from a business perspective. The Asian market is probably completely different from the Western market, and as a result, I think that the mobile development is aimed a little bit more at that market than ours. The other project, of course, Project Nova, the shooter, the next iteration, you could say, of Dust 514. I thought that looked pretty good from the teaser so far. I get a little bit of a Destiny vibe, a Halo vibe, combination of that. If they can get it right, and I hope that they got enough experience and learned enough lessons from Dust 514 to get it right, then that is something that I'm definitely looking forward to trying. Finally, the shooter coming to PC rather than, again, a console or something like that. Your EVE Online players are on the PC, and that's really, I think, if you want to tap that market, what CCP should focus on. But we'll have to wait to see how all of that develops in the future, of course. Let's talk a little bit about EVE Online and what is coming. So let's move to the updates website. Let's also move ourselves down here and let's start straight away with some extra slides that I grabbed from the eVegas keynotes and from the EVE Online website. So winter 2018-2019, and the first thing that I personally noticed here is that they are now calling it the winter update, no longer the winter expansion, and that is perhaps why I'm feeling a little bit underwhelmed by this keynote, because I was half hoping that perhaps there would be a nice big announcement of something special, something new, something we didn't know about already, and that did not happen. Still, there is some cool stuff on the horizon, and what actually interests me most of all is right down here, 64-bit EVE client that should be coming this year, or yeah, I think this year, if I'm not mistaken, that's what was said. And I think that has a lot of potential to just improve A, our experience in EVE Online, especially in bigger fights, and B, the potential future development for EVE Online, because it just gives CCP that much more room to try new stuff and to try to optimize the client, the experience from all of us. So 64-bit client is definitely something that I'm going to try out, and hopefully that'll be a nice jump in performance. Next to that, I think it was perhaps a little bit under the radar, I haven't really seen a lot of talk about it on Reddit and other places, is that there is, I think, a new tool in development for capturing footage in EVE Online. So for us video makers, a 64-bit client and then a sort of a new camera tool that will allow us to grab cool footage, that is absolute heaven. And yeah, that's basically what excited me most there. It was CCP Falcon talking about the 64-bit client, and then I think CCP Burger showing that they are developing a tool for capturing footage as well. So combine those two, and I'm a happy camper, since of course I make videos. That is absolutely amazing. Looking forward to that. Yes. Next up, it's not on here, but we knew that it was coming, or we definitely suspected that it was coming. CCP is going to work on the Vortex as well. They are going to do that in 2 steps, and I'm positive about it, because obviously everything was so one-sided. We saw that from the numbers they gave at Vegas. Only 4% of defenders actually get a kill during a war, and I think it was something like 105 kills for 1 loss to the advantage of the attacker. So it's such a one-sided affair that especially new players and tiny corporations that are new to the game suffer greatly from the war deck mechanic. And so, as I've said, CCP is going to try and solve that in 2 steps. Number 1, they are going to make it so that you can only war deck corporations that have an active structure. Perhaps not good news for me personally, because I do have structures, of course, and it might actually bump me up a little bit on their priority list to war deck, but it makes a lot of sense when you're looking at player retention and when you're looking at trying to safeguard some of the newer players so that they don't get war decked in their second week of playing, feel forced to stay offline for a whole week and then never come back to the game, which is basically the problem that they're trying to tackle. And then after that, they did say that they are going to rework the war deck system. What that will entail, we don't know yet, but I'm thinking just try to put objectives on both sides. We'll definitely have to have structure destruction be one of the goals for the attackers, but yeah, make it more goal oriented so that the defenders have a reason to actually engage in activities during a war deck and feel like they have a way of beating that, a way of somehow overcoming the war deck, the challenge that was issued to them. At the moment, it's such a one-sided affair that even for me, if I get war decked, the tactic is deny them fights, deny them kills. Which, by the way, also one quick note, I'm in those 4% because in my latest war deck, I had an interceptor ready and there was a bomber scout looking at my structures. I caught him, killed him, and after that I avoided all fights as much as possible. But also to showcase the one-sided nature of a war deck, they came with 4 or 5 battleships, they had neutral logistics as well, and they took out the shields of all my structures at the time. There was nothing I could do. They didn't bother with the armor and structure timers, which I think they didn't have time for in the running war that they had going, but there was absolutely nothing that I could do. If they wanted to destroy my structures, they would have easily done so. And so it showcases that yeah, it's very difficult to balance something like the war decks, but CCP is yet again going to try and do that. Next up, we have the new structures, of course. Upwell is coming out with a jump bridge, a Sino jammer, and a sinosaural beacon. They look absolutely amazing. The graphics department at CCP is just incredible, especially the jump bridge is apparently a massive jump bridge that is going to be able to have whole fleets in front of it and then push that through to its destination. A couple of extra little tidbits. Apparently you'll be able to connect your jump bridge to a jump bridge from another alliance, and the sinosaural beacon will potentially have an access list as well, so that you can have more control over what happens with those travel tools in your space. It's mostly nullsec related. I personally am still very excited about this because it gives me potentially several new blueprints to grab, to research, and to try to eke profit out of. And of course, it's the speculation game, I think, that is happening right now. What will you need in order to make these jump bridges? How many will the nullsec alliances try to make in short order in order to get their infrastructure up and running as quickly as possible and be ready for any possible threat out there? I think it will be a rush for the resources, and I think there's still a very high chance that we're talking about advanced PI materials. So we're, I think, a little bit late at this point for the investments, but potentially we can definitely get some nice profits out of our investments due to these changes coming to the game. And I was thinking of something else as well when it came to these structures, but I already forgot. So we've got the blueprint, we have the resource rush that will potentially be pretty awesome for people that are ready for that. And yeah, as I've said, we are not 100% sure that the advanced PI materials are part of this, because they are considered to be flex structures. So smaller than the M structure, smaller than anything that we know at the moment from Upwell. And as a result, you can't be 100% sure what it's going to take to build these. So keep a very close eye on CC, especially if you're invested in advanced PI materials or other materials and you're expecting to make a profit on the trade. after these are introduced into the game. But the rush is sure to come. This looks so great as well. One bad news, piece of bad news I would say on the new structures. I was hoping for news on the propaganda towers as well. Didn't see that during the EVE keynote, but perhaps they're still coming later on, of course. Structure skins, that's something that I'm looking forward to as well. But also, you know, skins at the moment, they're pretty cool, but I'm very rarely buying any of those myself. What I would personally want to see CCP develop is, of course, a corporation skin, an alliance skin, give us colors that we can create ourselves, and that we can then proudly fly around New Eden. I would love that for my structures as well. Could you imagine if I could have a team that I create myself, put that on all the structures on grid that I have in Detal, showing that this is now my little area of space, and then have those on the ships as well. That would be so cool. But yeah, that is still quite speculative, not on the radar at the moment. After the new structures, CCP talked a little bit about the agency update. So I'm not sure if it's part of the settings menu overhaul, but here CCP has basically a two-phase plan as well. They want the agency to succeed. They want that to become the portal for finding content and stuff to do in EVE Online. So they're going to improve that, I think, also this winter. And then in 2019, they are going to look into incorporating fleets, fleet finders, and things like that in the game. And that is something that I personally am also looking forward to myself. I play most games solo. I play games to relax, to have fun, not to hurt cats, which unfortunately, when it comes to organizing stuff in online games, to me, feels like a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of problems that I'm just taking on myself, and I'm very rarely willing to do that. And as a result, I'm sort of hoping that the agency with a fleet part to it would become the answer to that. So I'm all for it, and I hope that CCP can get that right as well. We have more balance coming, obviously. I think that CCP has shown that they are actively, continuously looking at ways to improve the balance in the game. It's a very difficult exercise, but I think that they're trying their best on that front. And then we also have the activity tracker, which I think can be pretty damn cool. It'll definitely give you a bit more of a sense of what your character is doing, what you've been focusing on in the last few months. And as a recruitment tool, this could be quite interesting as well, so that you can see that, yeah, this guy is definitely an industrialist. That's why we're taking him into corporation. And his activity tracker, once you can somehow demand access before, or get access when someone applies to your corporation, can give players a much needed tool to know exactly what kind of a character they are actually accepting into their corporation. For a solo player like myself, I think it's just going to be cool to see if I can work on some achievements or something like that in the activity tracker. After that, we still have the Abyssal Dead Space, of course, where two interesting things came about. Number one that I personally am interested in is, well, it's not really showing the right thing on the winter update page at this point, but all right, we'll do with what we have. Fleet Abyssal content, I think that's pretty interesting. 3 fleet members, that feels small enough in scale that it's doable, and frigates, that I think in my opinion means that it will be affordable enough to try and run those effectively, and to get newer players, to get less rich players, less experienced players into the Abyss itself. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna prepare some frigates myself, and although I just said that I'm not big on trying to organize stuff when group content in games myself, I don't feel like I've got plenty of time to do that or anything. I am going to look and think about if I can't organize some fleets for Abyssal Dead Space, perhaps in a way that doesn't cost me a lot of time, such as, all right guys, that day, that hour, I'll be online, and then the next 2 hours I'll open up a fleet so that we can potentially do Abyssal Dead Space content together and try to have some fun that way. So no promises. It's really pretty damn busy. There's other stuff on the horizon, like Nova, like Fallout 76, like X4. I've got lots and lots of stuff that I want to do, but I'm definitely thinking about it. 3 players, frigates, that feels like it's small enough and affordable enough that I might be willing to take the jump. So we'll see if it works out. If not, well, then that is perhaps when the agency update comes out, something that I'll look into then, if I can, for instance, more easily join a group myself rather than to have to organize a group myself. So we'll see how that works out. But the other part for the Abyss is, of course, the optional PvP Abyss. A little bit controversial, and I can definitely understand where that comes from. I think most people are basically questioning the premise a little bit. If it's really a dual arena basically that is being created where potentially two cruisers can meet each other, and we're talking about two healers at this point that are really tanked, it's I think potentially going to end up in scenarios where neither player can break each other, and so you're basically just coming up against the timer and boom, there you go. But I can also see some potential in fixing that. It was said that this new Abyssal dungeon was tied to several or to more abyssal filaments. So if it's not just 2, but if it would be 3, 4, maybe 5, then I think that it could be pretty damn cool. Of course, the rewards would have to scale up towards something absolutely amazing as well before people would risk it. But if up to 5 players could get in there, then of course I think it's a completely different story. If a single player chooses to go in there, he takes the risk and he ends up being the only one from the potential players, then he grabs the loot, great. If it's only limited to 2, I think we are going to run into problems, but if you can imagine 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 of them, then I think it could be very cool and create some incredible stories as well. Now, it would never be for me. I'm never going to take my healer into that PvP room myself, so I'm super happy that it's optional as far as I understand, but yeah, very tricky in my opinion to get this right, especially in a one-on-one situation in, well, Abyssal Dead Space sites, which at the moment are definitely run in pretty expensive ships. So how successful will that idea be? This implementation is definitely not what I personally had in mind when it comes to Abyssal PvP. But on that front, right, there is definitely something that I read on Reddit that I agree with. If it becomes like the place to meet for small scale PvP, you're just gonna kill roaming in the game in general. So that is definitely not a great idea either. Trying to incorporate some form of PvP in the Abyss this way, I think, is the right way to go about it. I'm just not sure if a 1 versus 1 in the cruiser department is the right way to start. Perhaps they should have looked straight into the 3 versus 3 frigates and made it happen there. I don't think that you get many situations where it's completely impossible to fit for breaking the enemy in a 3-on-3 frigate situation. But we'll see how that develops, of course, and hopefully we can get on CC, test it all out, and we can then enjoy that content pretty damn soon. The final part, it's not on the updates website just yet, is the new Triglavian ships. That is something that looked pretty cool. A destroyer cruiser, logistics cruiser, and a battle cruiser from the Triglavians. Yeah, very nice, but this does bring me back to that frigate content. I do think that CCP will have to work hard on A, making Abyssal Dead Space more rewarding, and B, making it more accessible as well. If they now want that many Triglavian ships to be built, keep in mind these are basically Tech 1 ships. These are not super strong, super bonus ships or anything like that. Yeah, if you want that to become an affordable and flyable option for a larger part of the player base, you will have to do something about the drop rates, about how easy and how costly it is to get into Abyssal Dead Space. But I think that they're well aware of that, and that's why they're choosing small fleets, 3 frigates. That feels like it's meant to be more accessible than what's happening at the moment in Abyssal Dead Space, because if you want to go tier 4, if you want to go tier 5, we are talking very expensive cruisers at the moment, which a lot of the player base just isn't willing to risk or just simply can't afford. Overall, as I've said, this does look pretty interesting. I am most interested and most curious about what the effect of the 64-bit client is going to be, but I'm also underwhelmed just a little bit by the lack of like big announcements at this EVE Vegas keynote. But overall, yeah, the future of EVE Online is pretty clear at this point. We know what to expect, and I look forward to seeing how it all develops and comes together. Anyways, Let me know in the comments what you think about what's happening in EVE Online at the moment. But for now, I'll see you all next time.